It's a Sunday afternoon in Medellin, Colombia, and I'm sitting at this little restaurant in Santo Domingo, way up at the very last stop of the cable car in Parque Arbe, eating a steak and drinking a beer with one of my closest friends of almost 10 years, and below us, it is the craziest intersection I've seen in my entire life. And I've been to Japan, I've seen Shibuya Crossing, the largest intersection in the world, and while that one is about 150 times the size, this little tiny one in Colombia is about 150 times as dangerous. There's cars, motorcycles, buses. Everybody is cutting each other off and crashing what seems to be nearly every few seconds. I look at my friend and say, there's no way it can be like this 24/7, right? Anyways, after lunch, we start walking through some neighborhoods and then stumble into what looked to be like a kid's birthday party or a small weekend carnival overlooking one of the most beautiful views I've ever seen. We start talking to some locals, and next thing you know, we're drinking with them, laughing, taking shots of tequila, asking questions, and they tell us this is the real Colombia. Not Poblado, not Provenza, this is home. And for the first time in nearly 2 months of living there, and honestly, after 3 years of traveling random countries around the world, I had this weird feeling like I could actually live here. But then, a few seconds later, reality kicked in because I remembered I was still in the middle of a random hood in Colombia, about an hour away from the next tourist, in a place where if something went down, anything went wrong, nobody was coming. And that's kind of the truth about Colombia. It can be beautiful, warm, affordable, exciting, but it's also not a place where you can move blindly, walk around careless, flashing jewelry, and acting like your safety is somebody else's responsibility. Which reminds me of another story. One my barber actually told me. He would come to my apartment while I was living in Medellin and give me fades overlooking the city from my balcony. And he told me about when he was drinking just the night prior before coming to cut my hair, and he saw a couple people arguing. One of the guys decided that he had enough talking. He walked out to his car, came back with a gun, and shot and killed the dude he was arguing with. And when he was explaining this story, he kind of said, that's just the price of Colombia, that you can chalk it up to the game. Essentially that you cannot have the best of both worlds, that Colombia is so beautiful that it needs to come with some kind of a cost. And at the time when hearing that, it kind of made sense, but then I remembered there are many beautiful places around the world where you don't risk getting shot by being there. The US, though, not being one of those places. And I almost learned that the hard way when a friend and I had an attempted robbery in Poblado, which I'll talk about more here in a minute. But first in this video, I want to talk about what it's actually like moving to Colombia as a veteran, what safety is really like, visa options, cost of living, and the things that I wish I understood before I got there. Starting with apartments, because where you live changes your entire experience. While Poblado and Provenza are of course convenient, they are the areas with the most tourists, so they do come with a price. If you're going on a short holiday or a boys trip, then maybe this is where you want to stay, because this is where most tourists end up. But personally, I would never want to live there for the simple reason of it being loud and not feeling very authentic, even though I was part of the problem being a tourist and being in that city. That also happens to be the same place I almost got robbed. And while many people think that because you're in a tourist area that you're more safe, when I've actually found it to be the exact opposite, which makes sense. I mean, if you're in a local area around local people enjoying their time, it just seems a bit less likely that you would get robbed versus if you're walking around a tourist area where people who are looking for targets are going to be hanging out. And that's basically what happened with me. The same friend and I were walking down an alley in Poblado when a guy goes up to my buddy to shake his hand, dap him up, and then he puts his hand around my friend's shoulder and then just snatches the chain off of his neck. And my friend immediately turns around and says, "Give me my fucking chain back." And then the guy who grabbed it reached for his waist, signaling as if he had a knife or a gun. And then my friend says, "You don't have shit. Give me my chain back." That's when I turn and I see two more of them just standing there like they're waiting for fucking directions. One was against the wall about 7 feet away, not really doing anything. And then there's a third guy who's about 2 arms length away from me, where I'm walking up to him now saying, "Get your chain from your boy. Like, what are we doing here?" And he's just trying to seem like he's calming the situation down. He's saying like, "Hey, relax guys, relax." And after about 30 seconds of being there, the guy just drops the chain. I walk up, maintain eye contact, reach down, pick it up. And I just remember thinking like, your only job here is to rob, and you can't even do that right. I mean, if they took the chain and ran, we're probably not chasing them through the streets of Colombia, but they just stood there. So if you're a thief and you're watching this, run next time you take something. Don't just stand at the scene of the crime. But my point with that story is people will say Colombia is dangerous because of the cartel history, but the real risk comes from little opportunistic street crimes. And with that being said, there are many safe neighborhoods and safe areas in Colombia. And of course, there are things that you can do that dramatically decrease the chances of you becoming a victim. For example, if you seem nervous or confident walking around without intention and you look like you don't know where you're going or you hesitate around corners, you'll make yourself a target because your behavior and your location determine your risk much more than the country itself. The problem there, though, is all of that energy, focus, and effort that you put towards taking extra precautions to stay safe can be better spent elsewhere. For example, learning how to make more money, learning sales, learning marketing, learning Spanish. And then there are places like Envigado and Laureles, on the other hand, which are much quieter and still close enough to everything, where you feel like you're actually living in Colombia and not a pop-up version of it. If you're planning on moving there, I just book a short-term place, maybe 2 to 4 weeks in a couple different areas to get an idea of the noise, traffic, security, gym, grocery store access is a big one. And the most important thing that nobody talks about is the hills, because Medellin is a city built into the mountains, which is the reason I love it. But if you stay in certain areas, a morning walk can mean climbing 2,000 feet in elevation up Mount Everest. That's an exaggeration, of course, but if you're anything like me and you love to go on walks, but you prefer doing it on a horizontal surface, this is something to keep in mind. As far as visas go, you don't need one. You just need a one-way ticket. All you need, to an extent, but really all you need as a US citizen is a flight, and you can stay for 90 days. If you want to stay longer than that, then you can use your VA benefits to apply for a pensionado visa, which requires you to have a stable monthly income or a monthly pension. And if you're a disabled veteran, you will more than likely qualify as long as you bring in around 3 times the minimum wage in Colombia every month, which I believe averages out to be around $1,500. And with that, you can stay 3 years at a time. And when it comes to cost of living, Colombia can be as affordable or as expensive as you make it, depending, of course, on what you get yourself into. For the most part, though, you will save significantly on things like rent and Uber by far, which helps to leave you more room for the more important things to spend money on, like Facebook ads and employees. And for veterans who are looking to move to Colombia, it can be great because it gives you a new environment, a lower cost of living, and a different pace of life entirely. With that being said, though, you do still need structure, at least I do, and cheap rents and great views are nice, but they don't fix your habits. If you're undisciplined in America, you'll become undisciplined in a country like Colombia as well. So if you're a veteran thinking about Colombia, don't go there just because it's more affordable. Don't go because it looks good online. Maybe go with the plan, maybe don't. Sometimes it's better with that one. But you should have an idea of where you're staying and how long you can legally stay, as well as your budget and what kind of environment that you actually want to live in. Because moving abroad is not just about changing your location. It's about changing the way you live. Subscribe for more videos in the future. Catch you in the next one, homie.